To call cars an important part of many people's lives would be an understatement. Even if someone is not involved with car culture or doesn't know right from left when working under the hood, odds are they still use their car nearly every day to commute. They may not know how their car works, but they know how important it is to them. Another reason cars are so important to people is because of the financial investment. Cars are often either the first or second most expensive thing someone owns. Because of this, people are often rather picky about what their car is. They want it to match their style and their vibe. They want it to be an expression of who they are as a person and an extension of themselves. And in some cases, people are willing to go to great lengths to get their car exactly how they like it, to get it to a point where it projects the exact message they want to the world. Because there's such a variety of cars, people putting in so much effort into making them exactly the way they want them to, and they use their car as often as they do, it is understandable that you would start to think of your car as a living being. This is further proven by the fact that some people give their cars human names to reflect the car's personality and their relationship with it. A couple people who are prominent in car culture have even commented on this phenomenon. Alex Roy, a gentleman who at one point held the record for the fastest time to cross the US by car at 31 hours and 4 minutes, referenced this in a documentary about his record-breaking run. Not a direct quote here, but he said something along the lines of, "A car is like a living being. If you treat the car well and take care of it, it will do the same to you." And Jeremy Clarkson, former host of Top Gear and current host of the Grand Tour, has spoken on cars being alive. He said, and this is a direct quote this time, quote, "It's what non-car people don't get. They see all cars as just 1.5 tons, 2 tons of wires, glass, metal, and rubber, and that's all they see. People like you or I know we have an unshakable belief that cars are living entities. You can develop a relationship with a car, and that's what non-car people don't get. When something has foibles and won't handle properly, that gives it a particularly human quality because it makes mistakes. And that's how you can build a relationship with a car that other people won't get." End quote. The quote from Jeremy especially sums up how I, and I suspect many others, felt/feel while playing Pacific Drive, a survival game that revolves around a car that starts out as little more than scrap metal, but you slowly upgrade it into a rolling, tough-as-nails survival machine. I was very much on the fence about getting Pacific Drive, as survival games are typically not my thing, but the premise of the game and the overall uniqueness of it was too much for me to resist, so I jumped into it, and I couldn't have made a better decision. Pacific Drive is almost a perfect game in my opinion, and has only one real drawback. So let's discuss the many positives and few negatives of Pacific Drive. Pacific Drive is the debut game for developers Ironwood Studios. It was released on February 22nd, 2024 for PC and PS5. I got the game on Steam, so all footage shown in this video is from the PC version. Pacific Drive takes place in 1998 in the Pacific Northwest. You play as a delivery driver who is tasked with delivering a package. Your delivery path takes you past something known as the Olympic Exclusion Zone, an area that the government has walled off from the rest of the world due to the development of unexplainable happenings that began in the mid-1950s. As you drive along the walled-off area, you end up getting sucked into the Olympic Exclusion Zone. In doing so, the car you were driving is destroyed. You eventually stumble upon an old beat-up station wagon that you quickly get in barely drivable condition. Upon starting the car and driving it, you get contacted by 3 scientists that committed their lives to studying the wildness that is the Olympic Exclusion Zone. They assist you in working your way out of the zone, as well as educate you in the history of the zone and their experiences with it. In return, you aid them in their research while also using resources within the zone to upgrade your car in every way. Pacific Drive is sold as a survival game, which was the main source of my hesitation before buying it. I've played survival games before, and I find them more tedious than fun. Constantly maintaining my hunger level, my thirst, growing food, harvesting supplies, etc., etc. There's nothing wrong with that. That is the nature of survival games, and I recognize that. And some people love that gameplay loop. I just typically do not. However, Pacific Drive is different. I would classify Pacific Drive as survival light. In the survival games I have played, with the most playtime being sunken into Raft, pun intended, there is always something that needed my attention. I constantly needed to be eating or drinking or fixing something or cooking. It was like I was the only one in a busy kitchen during dinner rush, constantly running around trying to play catch up. But in Pacific Drive, that wasn't the case. I feel there are two distinct locations with two very different moods and mindsets, the garage and the field. When out in the field, you need to keep your head on a swivel and your mind sharp. You need to loot locations and items that you come across, breaking them down with a myriad of tools that you have at your disposal. But while away from your car, you must be careful. In addition to maintaining your own health, you also have to make sure your car is in good health as well. And if either of you or your car are in rough shape, you are going to have a rough time. You can always repair your car on the go if you have the appropriate materials with you, but that is never the goal. So to sum it up, being in the field can be stressful. A very stark contrast to garage gameplay. While at the garage, the only harm that can come to you is from accidentally slamming the trunk door down on your head. And the only harm that can come to your car is from you tearing it down to make room for better parts. The mindset I found myself in while in the garage versus in the field was very contrasting. In the garage, I was able to take my time, really study what my car needed, and nurture it back to health as I told it how good of a job it did at protecting me. I added to the mood by switching on the garage radio and jamming to some tunes as I'm going full mechanic. Whereas in the field, I don't even turn on the radio to conserve battery. I'm moving as fast as I can and looting everything in sight and putting the pedal to the metal to avoid anything that may come to harm me and my precious car. Luckily, there are no hunger or thirst meters to keep track of in this game as well, so a lot less to worry about there right from the start. This is the source of my survival light argument. In most survival games, you're always being pulled in 5 directions. In Pacific Drive, it's not as extreme. In the garage, you can fix everything up without it degrading again before you have a chance to venture out. You can get everything up to 100% health. Even in the field, if you are careful, you really don't have to worry about your car's health. Just keep it gassed up and charged up, and you will be good to go. Field repairs are not mandatory. Expected, yes, but mandatory, no. So instead of being pulled in 5 directions, Pacific Drive only pulls you in 3, which is a lot more manageable. Hooping back to the garage, I love being there. Not because the field scared me, but because I really felt like I was a mechanic working on my car. I loved the radio playing some rock and roll in the background as I'm unloading all the supplies I got from my most recent trek, studying schematics and blueprints to upgrade my car and garage, and preparing for my next trip out. I obviously always tried to keep my car in as good a shape as I could, but when things went not the greatest and I'm pulling into my garage with my car clinging on to life, I was almost excited because I knew I got to spend the next however long fixing my car up. Removing and adding parts is so very satisfying and feels especially great when you have been eyeing up a specific upgrade for a while and you finally have the opportunity to build it and add it to your car. It honestly felt like I was nursing a loved one back to health. Can be difficult at times, of course, but the payoff cannot be measured because it is so insurmountably great. Kind of messed that one up there. And in the field, Ironwind Studios did a great job of giving you the sense of discovery. With this zone being in existence for about 30 years in the game, you are obviously not the first person to see the things you're seeing, but you sure do feel like it. A lot of crazy things you see are known as anomalies. You can scan these anomalies to learn more about them and how they work and what they do. They vary greatly in terms of what they do and how they look and how they affect you and your car. Some are easily avoidable and do not do much damage if you disturb them. Others are a lot harder to avoid and really mess your day up if you stumble into them and disturb them. However, the feeling I got when seeing a new anomaly did not fill me with fear or terror. It filled me with joy and curiosity, knowing that I had something new to learn and some more creativity from Ironwood to see. And then to make the field even more fun, looting things and gathering supplies is not a chore in this game, it is a joy. Carrying a variety of tools, I was able to loot almost anything I come across. The whole fast-paced nature of getting in, getting what I need, and moving on to the next area was just so satisfying and a very addicting gameplay loop. And I cannot explain to you how elating it is to come across some resource that is hard to find, that I knew I needed, and just grabbing everything of it that I can. I have an idea of how old California gold panners feel after playing Pacific Drive. To cap off everything great mechanically about Pacific Drive, I have to discuss the car. I don't think there is a better way to sum up my relationship with my car in Pacific Drive than the quote Jeremy mentioned earlier in the video. When you first get into your car, it is a rolling sack of shit and far from perfect. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But goddamn, if you don't instantly fall in love with this beat-up station wagon that just wants to keep on chugging. It is ever so near death, but it keeps soldiering on for you. And then, as the game progresses, it turns into a robust, necessary piece of survival equipment. You'll be driving along, wondering how you survived at all without this car, even before you got in the exclusion zone. The relationship I formed with this virtual car is stronger than the one I formed with my real-life car. I truly felt like this car was a living thing, telling it how good of a job it was doing, and after taking a big hit while driving, I'd thank it for absorbing the blow and telling it I would make up for that later. I don't know what kind of wizardry they pulled at Ironwood Studios, but to say they achieved at making your car feel like more than a hunk of metal is an understatement. Lastly, to finish off everything great about Pacific Drive is the story. Much like Firewatch, link in the description, you never see any of the people you communicate with. You are simply guided by radio by 3 scientists, Tobias, Francis, and Oppie, each with their own unique personalities and game plans on how to attack certain situations. As you spend time in the zone and listen to them communicate both with you and each other, you learn pieces of each one's backstory. The most important thing being that they chose to stay in the zone to study it when everyone else was leaving and getting evacuated, which to me shows the true extent of their dedication to science. And despite you never being able to communicate back to them, you truly feel like they are some of your best friends. You want what is best for them just as they want what is best for you. I felt my relationship with them grow as the story progressed just as much as my relationship with my car did. And by the time the final mission rolled around, I was so ready to declare Pacific Drive a perfect game, an absolute 5 out of 5. I was completely enamored with this game from top to bottom and truly had 0 negatives to say about it. It was that good, up until that point. But then I did the final mission and finished the game. I'm not going to go into detail here and spoil the ending, as I see no need to, and I'm able to convey my point without doing so, but it's safe to say I was more than a little disappointed. I just went on a massive journey of discovery, survival, and companionship. In comparison, the ending was very lackluster. I personally didn't feel like it was grand enough and lacked spectacle. An ending doesn't need to be a big spectacle, but after the big epic adventure you went on, a little more pomp and circumstance was expected. It was also rather open-ended, whereas I would have liked something a little more definitive and conclusionary. This is seriously my only drawback with Pacific Drive. It's just a shame it is a rather big and important one in my mind. Even with the botched ending, to say I liked Pacific Drive more than I was expecting would be the understatement of the century. I went from being on the fence about getting it to being completely in love with it. Make no mistake, this game is not for everyone. It is, even if it is a light version in my mind, still a survival game. It will be very, very tedious at times. This is also a game that requires your attention. Pacific Drive is not a game you can turn your brain off for and enjoy. You need to be paying attention to your surroundings at all times. Just based on those 2 things alone, a lot of people will be turned off by this game, and that's fine. Not every game is made for every person. But if you are like me and you are on the fence about it, take that leap. Jump into the unknown and explore the zone. Like I said, survival games are normally not my thing, but this one is different. It is not your typical survival game, and it is an absolute blast, especially considering this is only a $30 game. That's right, this absolutely fantastic game is less than half of a full price game. And also, don't listen to the Google searches that say this is a 12 to 14 hour game. That's what I was seeing a lot before buying it. I don't know who the hell was beating this game in that time, but they need to chill the hell out. Upon another search at the time of writing, it appears the times have been updated to reflect the more accurate time of 20 to 30 hours, which with my playthrough being right around the 25-hour mark, if I'm remembering correctly. And that was focusing on the story pretty much the whole time. If you wanted to see everything the game has to offer, I can easily see someone getting at least 50 hours out of this game, which personally, for a $30 game, is incredible value if you ask me. This could be a full price $70 game, and I would still be very satisfied with the value, which is all the more reason you should jump into it. All things considered, Pacific Drive is nothing short of an absolutely fantastic video game. When I wasn't playing Pacific Drive, I was thinking about how much fun I'll have the next time I play Pacific Drive. And with it being released in February, Pacific Drive is a rather early, but very strong contender for my personal 2024 Game of the Year. Pacific Drive might be the biggest surprise I've experienced in gaming, and if this even remotely seems like something you would like, I couldn't recommend it to you enough. For my next adventure, I'm going to be jumping into the Halo Infinite campaign. As someone who is admittedly a bit of an Xbox fanboy, playing the Infinite campaign is long overdue. So I'm kind of splicing this in right here, as I originally recorded the voiceover for this video a few days ago, and I've played more Outlast since then, and I actually have a bit further to go than I thought. Turns out I was only about a third of the way there. So that video probably won't be ready for some time, as I've been playing through that one with my buddy very slowly. But rest assured, the video will come out when I finish the game. So I'm cutting out the part where I said I'll probably be done soon, and adding in the part where I actually have about 66% of the game to go. So sorry if this part gets interjected awkwardly. But in the meantime, thank you so much for taking some time to watch this video and listen to me mostly gush over Pacific Drive. If you like this video, please tell YouTube that and hit that thumbs up button. Helps out a metric ton. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the Infinite video, the Outlast video, any other gaming video, or any of my food videos. Hit that bell to turn on post notifications as well while you're at it. Lastly, let's talk Pacific Drive in the comments. As I have made very clear, I deeply enjoyed this game, and I would love to hear what everyone else thinks of it, both positives and negatives. But until next time, thanks again for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.